There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes he's no longer in control, not of his job, his home, or even the person lying beside him. For me, that moment came in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon, somewhere between a disastrous client call and the silence that followed the slam of a door at home. As a senior operations manager at a logistics company in Ohio, my life had been built around fixing things, schedules, supply chains, shipping crises. I was the guy who didn't flinch when everything seemed to go wrong. But nothing in my career had prepared me for the chaos that awaited me when I walked through the door at home. For weeks, things had been unraveling at work. Delays in warehouse processing, a failed contract renewal, internal sabotage. It was the kind of mess that happens when people sense weakness and start circling. I had been in full crisis mode, juggling phone calls, emails, and damage control. I should have been at the office, working through the storm, but my head was pounding and my chest felt tight. I needed a moment away from it all. So, I left the office, told my assistant I'd be back after lunch, and drove home. I didn't call ahead. I thought I'd sit in the backyard, take in some fresh air, and remind myself that at least one part of my life still made sense. But I was wrong. The second I opened the front door, I felt it, the shift in the air. Lauren's car was in the driveway, but she hadn't texted, hadn't mentioned being off. The living room was empty, but a half-full wine glass sat on the coffee table, lipstick on the rim. Music played softly upstairs. That's when I heard the sound of water, not the shower, but the bathtub. I froze at the bottom of the stairs. Then I heard her laugh. It wasn't the kind of laugh I was used to hearing, light, carefree, but the kind that came with a deeper voice, one I didn't recognize. My heart raced as I moved upstairs. I didn't know what I was expecting, but I opened the bedroom door, and there they were, Lauren, sitting in the tub with another man. She didn't scream. She didn't even look surprised, just startled, as though she'd been caught in the middle of some game. The man, a guy maybe 5 years younger than me, built like he lived in the gym, scrambled out of the water. I didn't say a word. I turned around, walked back down the stairs, and out the front door. It wasn't until I was in the car, 2 blocks away, staring at the steering wheel that I felt my hands begin to shake. My phone buzzed. Once. Again. And again. I turned it off, not out of anger, but because I needed clarity. That was the moment my marriage ended, even if the paperwork hadn't caught up yet. In the days that followed, everything fell apart. I didn't tell anyone, not at work, not to my friends. I didn't mention it when Lauren came home, pretending that everything was fine, trying to act like we could just reset. She moved through the house like a ghost, barely touching me, barely speaking. I moved through her like she wasn't there at all. At work, the mess only deepened. Another critical shipment failed, 2 employees quit, and upper management started breathing down my neck. I was holding a grenade in each hand. One personal, one professional, and neither had a pin left. What struck me the most about betrayal was how it sharpened my senses. I started noticing everything. The way Lauren closed doors a little too gently, as if trying to hide the sound. The way she dressed when she thought I wasn't looking. The way the silence between us grew longer, heavier. I watched her like a soldier preparing for war. She thought I was distracted, buried under pressure, drowning in work. She was half right. What she didn't know was that I was also watching, waiting, planning. While I put out fires at work, I started building the foundations of my exit. I had my name pulled from our joint accounts, started stashing cash, rented a storage unit under a fake name, and began moving small things out of the house. Important documents. Personal belongings. The watch my grandfather had given me. The photos I couldn't bear to see, twisted by memory. Lauren never noticed. She was too busy living 2 lives, one with me and one with him. One night, she came home late. I was sitting in the dark, waiting. She paused in the doorway, startled, and gave me that fake smile I had come to hate. "I had dinner with Carrie," she said. "We lost track of time." I didn't respond. I just stared at her, waiting until her eyes dropped. Then, I stood, walked past her, and went to bed. I think that was the first time she realized she had lost control. The next day, she tried to be sweet, made coffee, asked how work was going, touched my arm while I was reading emails. But it was all a performance. She could feel it slipping, the comfort, the illusion, the lie we had both been living in. I was in the middle of restructuring our largest client account when it happened again. Another missed deadline, another call with corporate, another long day with nothing to show for it but stress and shame. When I got home, Lauren was sitting on the patio, legs crossed, wine in hand, phone in the other. She didn't see me pull into the driveway. She didn't hear the door open. She was too busy talking, her voice low, her laugh soft. I stood in the hallway and listened, not to the words, but to the tone, the intimacy, the excitement. Things she hadn't shown me in months. She was still seeing him, even after I had caught them, even after she had promised without saying a word that it was over. That night, I finished my plan. I made the final arrangements. I canceled my lease with the storage unit, moved everything into a long-term rental on the other side of the city, met with a property manager, and signed paperwork for a new job. A private firm, smaller, more independent, no politics, a better start. I wasn't just leaving her. I was leaving the life she had poisoned, and I was going to make sure she felt every second of the silence I was about to drop on her. I set the date for the end, marked it in my phone with just a red X. The morning of the red X, I woke up early. Lauren was still asleep beside me, curled up in the same bed where she had once whispered dreams to me. Now, I knew those whispers were likely lies. I watched her for a moment, not out of nostalgia, but out of detachment. She looked peaceful, like someone without a care in the world. But I knew that by the end of the day, her world would be gone. I got dressed, picked up my already packed bag from the closet, and walked downstairs. I didn't leave a note. I didn't take a final look back. I just closed the door behind me and disappeared. By noon, I had removed my name from the mortgage. By 3 o'clock, I had resigned from my job. By 5 o'clock, I was checked into my new apartment. Lauren still hadn't called. She probably assumed I was stuck in meetings or traffic, as usual. I imagined her pouring a glass of wine, texting the man she thought she could keep secret, laughing at some shared joke in a house that no longer belonged to either of us. When she finally did call, hours later, I didn't answer. Not that day, not the next. Instead, I let the silence do its work. When she came home to an empty closet, no car in the driveway, and a cold kitchen where warmth had once lived, I'm sure it hit her in waves. I imagined her standing in the doorway, confused at first, then frantic. The drawers were empty. My toothbrush was gone. The coat she bought me for Christmas wasn't on the hook. The framed photo of us from our wedding day was removed from the shelf, leaving behind a ghost-shaped dust outline. I wanted her to feel the weight of absence. Not just the physical absence, but the emotional one, the undeniable truth that she had finally broken something that wouldn't heal. Lauren tried everything. She called, texted, emailed. I deleted them all without reading. She came to my office, only to find I no longer worked there. She went to my brother's place, who had strict instructions not to engage. She even left a voicemail, crying, something I hadn't heard from her in years. That one I listened to, not out of sympathy, but to mark the moment. The sound of someone realizing they had finally reached the edge and found no bridge waiting.